Are you a chiropractor that has opened your private practice? You have patients coming in, things are working, and yet you're always thinking about new ways to grow, expand, and really build your brand at the end of the day. You're likely on social media already. You might even have people coming in through social, which is actually how I found my chiropractor. So don't knock it till you try it. But in this video today, I'm going to talk about PR for chiropractors, what you can be doing on a weekly basis for your practice to not only convert potential patients a little bit quicker, but to also get your brand known and out there. And hey, it'll likely boost your SEO as well through some of the strategies I'm going to share today. By the way, my name is Bridget Aileen Cisco. I'm the co-founder of our company, Visibility on Purpose. We help small business owners become known for the cool things that they are building and doing, both online and offline, all without hiring an agency. You don't need to have a huge budget. You don't need to have a huge following to do anything that I'm going to share with you today. We focused on helping small business owners be known and seen through PR or public relations. So think about it this way: podcasts, press and media, TV interviews, speaking engagements, all of that is possible, and you do not need to spend an arm and a leg. I promise, I promise. So first thing that we want to go over today is that how the media works, because if you are new to this world, maybe you listen to podcasts all the time but you've never thought of yourself as a guest or an expert or to be a source. Let's talk about how this all works. So think of it this way: it is all synergistic. As a chiropractor, you are an expert. You are a potential source for an interview on a podcast or on a TV segment in the morning talking about wellness or posture or mental health and the correlation between those things. You have expertise that is actually super valuable to specific audiences and specific outlets. And when I talk about media here, I'm also talking about traditional and print media that always has a digital imprint these days. So when you think about publications that you obviously know about, like Healthline, Prevention, Mind Body Green, Men's Health, all of these work and they need your input and expertise. You've probably seen or even read articles where the writer is quoting a chiropractor, talking about how posture impacts mental health, or how your posture can actually really be impacting your gut microbiome, or whatever it is. You have to understand that you are a source for similar content, and you can actually be using this to grow and expand your business, build credibility and trust for your own brand and for your own practice. So how do we do that? How do we become a source, and how do we do that without hiring a big agency? Because maybe you don't want to be paying $5,000 to $10,000 a month on retainer for 6 months. Totally get it. That is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to be sharing 5 important things as a chiropractor that you could be doing in your practice today. Now, whether you delegate this to a team member, maybe you have someone on staff who is really good at socials, really good at writing, really good at just engagement, connections, and seeing these opportunities, maybe you delegate that to them. But first, you need to understand how this works for yourself. So number 1, the first thing that you could be thinking about as a chiropractor is TV, both local and regional TV. Now, big TV stations also usually have a regional or local imprint. So think about it this way. Big stations like Fox, NBC, ABC, CNN, those names, right? They're big. Maybe you don't watch them anymore, but those names. A lot of them do have a local or regional kind of branch of that company. So there's going to be, personally, I live in New Jersey, so I do have big media companies, in this area because of New York City, but you might live in, let's say, Ohio. There are some smaller branches of big TV companies in that area as well. So we always have to start with research. We need to figure out, okay, what shows are out there? What would be good for me and for my practice? Now, this is where you can come in, but you have to understand how the news media works. The news media is really focused on what is timely and what is relevant. So think about what's happening in the world right now. A couple things come to mind as it relates to chiropractic care: mental health, physical health, posture. I actually went to the chiropractor pretty recently and they were saying, do you realize that like C5 isn't really there anymore? And I'm like, what? How did we get here, right? So you have people dealing with text neck. You have young kids who are hunched over all day because they are typing on their phones. Okay, we are in cars all day. We are seated all day. These things are all relevant. And say there was a big study that came out or a really big news or article that came out, you can actually leverage that in your pitch and talk about it. So think about what is timely, what is relevant, what is newsworthy, and you're going to send a pitch, but you got to make sure it's to the right person, to a TV anchor. Shouldn't be to the meteorologist because we're not talking about the weather here. No, 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 no. So you're going to send a pitch, which is simply an introduction of who you are as a potential source. You are letting them know, hey, here's a story angle, here's an idea that you can bring on to the morning show that would be relevant for your viewers, that would be relevant for the audience. You know, here's a little bit about me. Would I be a good source for an upcoming story or an upcoming segment on X, Y, and Z? So that's number one, TV. Number two, let's go into publications. And the reason that we really love to lean on publications for chiropractors is that you guys have expert matter, subject matter expertise, and you can really leverage your background, your knowledge to speak on a number of topics that you likely know about already. You've been talking about for a long time. You've been speaking about it. You share it with your patients on a daily basis during any kind of intake, anytime that you are seeing patients. So here are some big publications that might be a great fit for you as a chiropractor. What about Healthline, Prevention, Mind Body Green, Well and Good, Women's Health, okay, Men's Health as well, Runner's World, Shape, Muscle and Fitness, Forbes, Entrepreneur. Now, I have a quick story about Runner's World magazine. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts. It is called My First Million, and it was a founder of a nonprofit called Back on Your Feet. I believe her name is Anne. Her last name starts with an M. And she was saying that as a nonprofit in the first year of business, you know, she's trying to get the name out there, as most small business owners are doing. And what she was doing was eventually picked up by the media, because that can happen. If you're doing something really, really cool and really epic and it's a cool story, media can also pick it up. Okay, so that story was picked up by the media. She was helping homeless men basically get back on their feet and doing that through a running club. That story was picked up in Runner's World magazine, which led to some huge conversations with executives at huge companies, and she was able to get $1 million in donations in that first year of running a nonprofit, which like that's really epic, actually. It's so cool. So there are ways that you can basically be quoted as a source or an expert in these big publications that you know about, your potential patients know about, and it is a way to build brand credibility and trust. By the way, everything I'm talking about right now is free. We are not talking about pay to play, because you can actually leverage your expertise and simply introduce yourself as a source to the media. It is that simple. We talk about this inside our mastermind. We have a mastermind. It's a PR and visibility mastermind for small business owners. It's called Pitch Party. You're welcome to learn more about it. Link in the description of this video. So publications are a great way to grow your brand in that way. The other cool thing about publications is, let's talk about SEO for a moment. You likely have someone on your team, or you've hired an SEO expert or strategist to make sure that you are found when someone types in chiropractors in your local area. Another way that publications can actually support your brand through something called backlinking. So when you are featured and linked in an article on Prevention Magazine talking about chiropractic care and the importance of the spinal health for the modern day generation, and it links back to your website, it actually boosts your domain ranking and authority. So meaning people can find you faster, which is exactly what you want. And you can start to see how this is such a complementary strategy for your business. Okay, so that was number two. Number three, let's talk about podcasts. So here are a couple that you might have heard of: Smart Chiropractor, Spartan Up, Move Forward, Wellness Mama. You can also be thinking about prenatal podcasts, right? Because currently I am almost halfway through my pregnancy. I found a chiropractor. I wanted them to be trained in the Webster technique. So maybe if I had heard them on a podcast, it would have led me to them even quicker. So there are prenatal podcasts, there are Webster technique podcasts, there might be nutrition shows where you can actually be a valuable voice in the conversation. You have expertise where you can talk about certain things like postural alignment, like some of these simple tips that someone can take into their day-to-day life and how that impacts them. And you can be a voice in that conversation. It's all about introducing you to the show host. So that's what we do in the mastermind. If you want more details, click the link below. Number 4, what we'd recommend if you have started doing any of this for your practice is to add a press page to your website. So anytime that you get publications, you're featured in Prevention or Healthline or Men's Health Magazine, that needs to go on the front page of your website for your practice, because that is also going to, it's subconscious. This is what we found, it's subconscious. It is a third-party endorsement. You having your own practice and being a chiropractor and then being quoted in an article in Men's Health Magazine, which already has the credibility and trust through their brand name, you are then associated with that. Big name. So add that to your main page of your website. Also create a press page where you can kind of share some of these media wins. You can share your podcasts. If you head over to visibilityonpurpose.com/studentpress or /founderspress, you'll be able to see all the press that we have for our company, and it'll just give you an idea of how you can set this up for your own brand. And number 5, okay, this is important. Now, it's 2024. We're in the 21st century as we're recording this currently. You have a social media following, you likely have an email list. So one of the things that you can do with any of your press wins is actually share that with your own audience. Okay, because you probably have people on your list who maybe came to some sort of like lunch and learn or haven't converted into a patient yet. What you can be doing is reminding them through email, through sharing on your socials, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're utilizing, that you've gotten this really cool thing, because it elevates you, right? So when you are featured on that podcast and you're interviewed, you can actually send that to potential patients or current patients. It's a great way to continuously be building content. We know these businesses are content machines at this point if you're using social media at all. So then you're going to go forth and you're going to share this with your audience. That is one of the biggest missing steps that we see in our PR world. Now, if you've liked any of these tips today, I'm actually going to drop something into the description of this video. So we have a free training called Get Featured. It is going to take you step by step into what's important for your brand and your practice. We work with not only private practice owners like chiropractors, acupuncturists, health practitioners. We've had an Ayurvedic practitioner client. We also work with real estate agents. We work with publishers. We work with a whole slew of small business owners, and we would just love to gift you this. It is a free training called Get Featured. So if you are a chiropractor who's interested in growing your brand through free press and not spending an arm and a leg, download the free training so that you can get started today. Thanks so much for watching and listening to this video. Subscribe, like, tell a friend, follow us, do all the things. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful day.